Good morning, my loves. Welcome back. So in today's video, we are going to talk about an aspect that is quite lovely. We're talking about synastry again, because I know this is one of your favorites. These are my most watched videos. And the aspect I want to talk about today is the ascendant, one person conjunct the moon of the other person. This can be a wild ride, but also deep and just emotionally intense. And yes, with everything that is emotionally intense, it can, go to either side, emotionally this way and emotionally that way. It is not necessarily an easy aspect. It's not an aspect that is just like, yay, we have this aspect and it's so flowy. No, it's an aspect where we really get to know our emotions, where we have to deal with our emotions. And if we don't want to, if we are someone that doesn't want to deal with emotions, that just wants to put things aside and say, okay, that's fine, that aspect can make things really difficult for us. We are dealing here with one person's physicality, with one person's approach to life, with one person's idea of life, with one person's identity, and then the other person's emotionality. And depending on how connected that moon person is emotionally, how much the moon person likes to share emotionally, that will tell us a lot about, the emotional state of this relationship. And you know that I've mentioned that before. When we have synastry aspects and we have one person come with the moon and the other person comes with the ascendant, it is not always that the ascendant person plays out the ascendant and the moon person plays out the moon. It is mainly that, right? The ascendant person will mainly play out the ascendant and the moon will mainly play out the moon, but there's movement, right? Sometimes there will be moments where the ascendant person will play out the moon and the moon person will play out the ascendant, because that's the way energy flows within a relationship. That's how it works. But let's just stay with the fact that mainly the ascendant person plays out the ascendant and the moon person plays out the moon. Let's say we are talking about an earth relationship here, right? An earth moon and an earth ascendant. Because this is an aspect that, like most aspects, all aspects, they obviously depend which element they're in, right? Especially when we talk about conjunctions. It depends where is this aspect playing out. So let's say this is playing out in Earth. Earth is not necessarily known to be overly emotional, right? There is always a guardedness. So when it comes to the moon in an Earth sign, there's a certain guardedness. We're not like, speaking about our emotions in a very dramatic way. There's always like a soberness to the moon. And I want to emphasize here, if we are dealing with this in an earth sign, so the ascendant is an earth sign, the moon is an earth sign. Now, the person that has the ascendant, they also have a moon somewhere, right? If they have a moon in an earth sign, this is going to be an easier aspect for the two, because the ascendant person will be able to relate to the moon person much easier, because the way they deal with their emotions based on their moon is going to be relevant here, right? It's going to be very relevant here. It's going to be relevant in the way that they approach the moon person. It's going to be relevant in the way that they give space to the moon person. But let's say their moon is in a fire sign. That's a different story. That is going to make this much more difficult when it comes to playing out our emotional energy. And when we talk about emotional energy, what we also talk about is the unconscious, right? The unconscious behavior, the unconscious day-to-day, when we are in our routine, how are we behaving? How are we doing? How are we dealing with life? How are we dealing with things? Emotionality will, one way or another, be a big topic here. Our emotional relationship, my emotions, your emotions. Emotions is going to be a big topic, no matter if this is an earth sign, fire sign, air sign, or water sign. Emotional, like this will be a topic, we will talk about it. We might not feel comfortable talking about it, maybe we feel a little uncomfortable, especially when we have this in an earth sign, also if we have this in air. But in air, we will intellectualize it, right? We will try to intellectualize our emotions. In earth, what we're going to do with the emotions is we might at first try to, push it under the carpet or behind the wherever where we can't really see it, but it will always come back up, right? We will have to deal with our emotions. And this is really interesting. For me, sometimes what I see in these relationships is like these two people having come together to really deal with their emotional nature, with their unconscious. There's going to be a lot of inner child work in this relationship. Oh, a lot. This is a big one for inner work for both people. And that work needs to be done, right? And if it's not going to be done, we will have constant issues in the relationship, because we constantly meet one person's identity constantly meets the other person's unconsciousness, and vice versa, right? Because again, energy flows both ways. So we will constantly deal with the unconscious, constantly. So we'll have to work with the unconscious, right? We have to go deeper and see where do we have to shift, change, and rearrange things within us to become more ourselves, and then get closer in the relationship, or realize, well, maybe we can't get closer in the relationship, we can't make this relationship work, right? That is also obviously always an option, but generally it's like, yeah, we have to do the inner work. And also what will happen here a lot is chipping away on the identity. We come into a relationship with a certain identity. We will not leave this relationship. If this is not going on, we will not leave this relationship with the same identity. There will be shifts in the identity, because this emotion, right? Emotion has a charge, whatever emotion it is. This emotionality will shift and change us. It will shift and change both, because energy flows both ways. So again, this is another aspect that I could talk about forever. This is a big aspect where we can go so deep, we can go down the rabbit hole, we can look at it, from so many angles. But I think you get the idea. This is also another relationship where we really meta-update each other, because every time the ascendant is involved, we meta-update, and the moon is also involved here. Then this is like a double whammy. So yeah, this can be a very, very fulfilling relationship. I want to say that, right? I want to emphasize that this can be very, very, very fulfilling, but the work is required. We deal with physicality here one way or another. If it's earth or not, it doesn't matter if it's an earth sign or not. We deal with the ascendant, so we deal with physical form. Work is required. The doing is required. This is not just a beingness aspect. This is, I put in the work and I work it. Like you heard me say that before. It works because you work it. It doesn't work just because it doesn't. It doesn't work just because it's not that it does work just because it has to work. No, it will work when you work it and you make it work. You make it work for you. Right? It's not like you're not having a manuscript here where it's like, okay, step 1, I have to do this. Step 2, I have to do that. That's not how it will work. Because you can't read from a manuscript that someone else gave you. That, maybe it worked for them in that way. It doesn't mean that it will work for you. You have to find your own way of working it, because again, we're dealing with the moon. And the moon is so personal. So personal. There's no manuscript for the moon. There isn't. Yes, we can talk about the moon in Virgo is doing this, and the moon in Capricorn is doing that, and the moon in Pisces is doing that. Yes, of course. But what that means for that person in their own life, what they went through, what they've experienced, that, there is no manuscript for that. They have to find their own way. That's why, we all have our own path in life. And, we can have certain frameworks that we can lean on, but we cannot lean on a manuscript, right? We can have like an outline maybe, where we have certain we reach certain, what are they called? Goalposts. But at the end, we have to make it work for us, and we have to create our own rules for that as well. And when two people are involved, then, there might be two different rules. And then we have to find the rule that works best for the relationship. So, yeah, my loves, if you have any questions about this aspect, if you want a synastry reading, a natal chart reading, see how this works in your chart, how this can work out, how you can work it, let me know. You can book a reading. You can also work with me on a one-on-one capacity. We can do some coaching together. We are starting a new year. Maybe there's something you want to work through so the next year is going to work better for you. Or if you just have any other questions about astrology, you can always message me. You can always leave comments. I read them all and I reply to all of them. So feel free to drop a message, and yeah, have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you in the next video.